Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. So today we are gonna see what if Naruto took Temari whole night in front of Shikamaru. Before we start, please join my Patreon page to watch latest 18+ content. Now let's begin. Why am I still in Konoha? Uzumaki Naruto would ask this question time and time again as he walked through the village. He had done so many things for Konoha. The list included stopping pain, one of the biggest threats during the invasion, getting the 5th Hokage to actually accept and be the Hoka. GE in the first place, doing his missions perfectly, giving his full effort, bringing back Sasuke Uchiha, and finishing off Akatsuki for good. But he still felt as if the village was still hostile towards him. It was as if anything he did was never enough. The village still seemed to loathe him. Even though the Yondaime Hokage, one of the strongest and smartest ninja of all time, wanted him to be considered a hero, he could see the mistrust in the glares they still gave him. Because at the end of the day, he was still the Jinchuriki for the Kyuubi no Yuki, the most powerful of the 9-tailed demon beasts. They continually thought Naruto was the demon itself and refused to think otherwise no matter what he did. They wanted him dead. He was not wanted, no, needed as a shinobi or as a person in Konoha. So why stay? Well, he knew he had a few precious people living here still. He had Iruka, who was like a father to him, Kakashi, who was like an uncle, the Hokage herself, Tsunade, who to him was like a mother. Or a grandmother as he called her. He had Konohamaru, and even some of the Jonin he considered precious people worth staying for. But that was not a good enough reason to him. Team 7 had been reunited finally, but he still didn't feel like he belonged. He wanted to be needed. He wanted to be accepted by all and just not a few. But he knew he would not find love here in Konoha. Not anymore. Not after she died. He was too late. All the girls he knew were already taken. As soon as Sasuke returned, he confessed his feelings to Sakura. To Naruto, it really hurt seeing them together. Not only because Sasuke was dating Sakura, who would brush him off whenever he tried to hang with them. It was harsh and he felt that friends should not treat other friends like that. The main fact was that at the end of the day they were together. They had each other. He was probably the only one without companionship. Shikamaru and Ino became an item. Choji was dating the ramen stand owner's daughter. Kiba and Shino had found someone within their clan respectively. Neji got with Tenten. Even Lee had met and fell in love with a girl not too far from Wave Country. Plus, the only one who would give him the time of day, the only one that loved him for all of those years, had died in his arms without any chance of revival. There was nothing he could do to bring her back. She finally told him as her breath became hollow and her voice hoarse and silent. His first kiss had been her last. He would never be the same after that. He wanted to go, but as long as his precious people accepted him, he would stay. As he walked through the village on his way to the ramen stand, he overheard a familiar voice talking. His senses over time had increased to the level of a fox, so he knew exactly who the voice was. Sakura. She was one of the main reasons he stayed in Konoha. He relied on her and hoped that eventually Sasuke and her would break up and she would find that her heart belonged to Naruto. But he knew it was never going to be that way. But it did not stop him from wishing. As he approached her, he realized she was not alone. He smelled through his nose the scent of Ino and Tenten. Naruto was dense but not dumb and quickly deducted that it was a girl's conversation. So he lowered his chakra signature to not interrupt them and walked towards the ramen shop. As he approached the shop, he heard one of the girls who he believed was Ino say his name in a conversation. So Sakura, now that you're with Sasuke, what are you going to do about Naruto? I mean, everyone knows he's been fawning over you, Ino said. I don't know, never came to that thought. But he will be okay. Though, it is truly a shame he never realized Hinata liked him until she died, but then again. It is Naruto. He is extremely dense. Sometimes I wonder if he is truly cut out to be a ninja with the way he thinks, Sakura replied. I wonder if he'll ever find a girl for him. I would feel sorry for her. While he might be a kind-hearted shinobi, he really needs to calm down sometimes. Being so hyperactive and loud, it will kill him during missions. I mean, what is up with all the orange? I know he toned it down a little, but such a weird color. Ino said. He heard another girl's voice, but he left before he heard what they said. As he raced towards his apartment, All he could think about was the comments that Sakura said. Sometimes I wonder if he is truly cut out to be a ninja. Naruto wiped his eyes as salty tears ran down his whiskered cheeks. His resolve on staying in Konoha was now fully broken. He had no more reason to be in Konoha. Ever since Jiraiya had died, along with the late Sarutobi, the two people that helped him greatly, he found it hard to stay in Konoha. Now that they were gone, he could not bear to spend another day in Konoha. Once he reached his apartment, he grabbed tons of scrolls and tossed his few belongings inside of them. He put all his food, mostly ramen, in his bag along with his clothes and weapons. As he zipped up his bag, he looked at the Team 7 picture for a while before putting the frame face down. "Goodbye, Team 7, he whispered as he grabbed his keys and closed the door behind him for the last time. Hokage's office. "Come in." "The Godime Hokage," Tsunade said. As the door opened, she looked into the usually shimmering and inquisitive, now reduced to painfully dull blue eyes of Naruto, which held a look of hurt. "What's wrong, Naruto?" she said as she continued to fill in paperwork. When she heard the clang of metal on her desk, her head sprung up and locked eyes with the hit of the leaf on the office floor. Her mouth hung open as she looked at Naruto, who had a leaf symbol-less forehead and tears rolling down his face, and silently asked for explanation. "I'm tired," he simply said as he took a step forward and dropped his bag. "I'm tired of the looks that the villagers give me whenever I walk down the road. The same road I have helped in rebuilding. I am tired of everyone calling me dense when I had no proper training to learn since I was little. I'm tired of the whispers of me being a demon and how I should be dead already," he said as he walked towards her. Tsunade slowly rose up out of her chair as Naruto continued speaking. "I give my all during missions. I finished Akatsuki. I brought that traitor back to Konoha, and do you know what the why say to me? They say I'm not cut out to be a ninja, that I don't follow procedure of shinobi. No matter what I do, I will always be dead last. Always be an idiot, always be too late for love, and now." Naruto was silent and his body shook as he let out all of his pent-up emotion. She's gone, and I never knew, and now I will never know what we could have been. I'll always be behind, always." Naruto shrieked the last word as he collapsed into Tsunade's arms and remained there for a while before speaking again. "No matter what I do, I will never gain respect of the village. So I'm done. I'm starting over. I refuse to work for Konoha. I want out. I am leaving this village," Naruto whispered. "Where will you go?" Tsunade whispered to him. Naruto wasted no time in saying his destination. "Suna. Okay. There is the first chapter revised. As you can see, I have made some changes, and I will be making more changes. Hopefully everything will be done the way I want it to. Next chapter will be Tsunade's response, more changes and new things, enjoy." Revised. July 31, 2013. Trade it all. "What about your dream, Naruto?" Tsunade said. She did not want her little brother to leave Konoha. She would do whatever she could to keep him there. "Was your dream not to make people recognize you? What about the promise you made to Neji? Did you not say to him when you became Hokage that you would change that? Do you know that Konohamaru wants to be the 7th Hokage because he thinks that you will be the 6th? Are you not trying to prove to everyone that you deserve to be Hokage? How are you to become a Hokage if you refuse to be a leaf nin?" Tsunade asked. She stayed quiet and let Naruto think things through. She knew that she was right and that he would come around eventually. He would say that she was right and he would pick up his bag and go home. "You're right," he croaked. "I still want to become Hokage. But not living like this. Therefore I will make you a deal, Ba-chan," he said. "I'm listening," she said as her face grimaced at the word, deal. The last time someone said it, he never returned. "I want to go to Suna for 5 years. There, I want to begin a new life there. In 5 years I will return. If things have changed, I will return to being a leaf nin. If the villagers are still cold towards me, in which I have no doubt they will be, I will stay in Suna. Do you agree with the terms?" Naruto asked as he pushed himself slowly out of her arms and wiped his tears, then sat down in the guest chair of her office. As he sat down, Tsunade put her hands behind her back and walked towards the window to look outside at the Hokage monument. She then pondered whether to pull out the trump card that would almost instantly change his mind on leaving but decided that he needed a break. "You have a deal, Naruto," Tsunade replied as she turned back around and wrote down some words on a scroll. "I will send word to Suna to expect your arrival." "When do you wish to leave?" Tsunade asked. "Now," Naruto stated. "Now?" asked Tsunade as her expression changed to one of confusion. "I don't want to see any comrades right now. I want to keep the real reason as to why I'm leaving a secret. Tell them I went on a long mission or something," Naruto said as he got off his seat and grabbed his bag. "Fine," Tsunade said. She then got up and reached inside a drawer and pulled out a scroll that Naruto instantly recognized as a blood seal. "While you're in Suna, I want you to read that scroll. It has some things that I think you would want to know and learn about," she said as she handed him the scroll. "Thank you," Naruto said. After the two talked for a quick moment or so, Naruto picked up his bag to leave the office and head to Suna. But as he was about to bid Tsunade farewell, the door knocked. "Come in," Tsunade said. As soon as the door opened, Naruto cursed himself for not leaving as soon as he could. "You called Hokage, saw Naruto. What are you doing here? And what's with the bag and scrolls?" Sakura asked as she and Sasuke soon entered the room along with Sai. Before Naruto could answer, Tsunade interjected. "Naruto is being sent on a mission that will take some time to finish. You may go now, Naruto. Good luck to you," she said. Naruto quietly whispered a "thank you" to Tsunade and without waving goodbye to the three, swiftly flew out the window and hopefully out of Konoha forever. "Where is he going, Tsunade-sama?" Sakura asked. "That, I cannot tell you," Tsunade said as she sat down and pulled out a glass and a bottle of sake. From the looks on the Uchiha's face, she would be receiving tons of questioning from the two of them. 2 days later, Naruto moved towards Suna at speeds that rivaled Lee without weights through the forest. Using his demonic chakra, to which he had full control over ever since he had fused with the demon, he reached the sand dunes in record time. As he pulled out of his bag a cloak that most ninjas used to cover themselves from rain, snow and more, his eyesight caught the view of a figure slowly coming towards him. As he got closer, he knew exactly just who the two were. "Kankuro, Temari, what are you doing?" Naruto asked as he grinned at the two that came up to him. "What do you think? We came to get you. When Konoha sent word that a nin would be coming to stay for 5 years here, we just had to find out who." "Didn't know it would be you though," Kankuro said as he patted Naruto's shoulder and took his bag for him. "Thanks. Yeah, Konoha was just too much for me to handle right now. I just needed some time to breathe," Naruto said as he grinned and scratched the back of his head. He then stopped when he felt a pair of eyes pierce into him. He then made eye contact with Temari. The two looked at each other in awkward silence as sand clouds drifted by the three. It would have gone on longer before Kankuro turned around and began making his way into Suna. "Hey, are you two coming or are you gonna look at each other all day? I know my sister is cute but we have to get going." At that statement, the two broke their stare as they turned red from embarrassment and began moving to catch up with a fast-moving Kankuro. "What's with the look?" Naruto finally asked. "Just wondering if you're going to annoy me for the next 5 years, Temari said as she sped up further away from him. "Living in such a hot place like Suna, I wonder where she picked up the coldness," Naruto mumbled to himself. As the three finally reached the gates of Suna, the guards instantly greeted Naruto with not a hint of malice, anger or anything of that sort. "I think I'm going to like this place for the next 5 years," Naruto thought. "You guys go on ahead. I will drop your stuff off," Naruto, Kankuro said as he took up his bag and scrolls and walked off in another direction. "I will see you guys later." After about 5 minutes of walking towards a place Naruto had no clue about, he finally asked Temari the case. Tion on his mind. "Where are we headed to?" he asked. "The Cage Tower. Look around you, Naruto," Temari stated bluntly. "Sorry if I don't know Suna like the back of my hands." "It's not like I lived here before, you know," Naruto countered. "Whatever, let's go," Temari said as they finally came within a block of the Cage Tower. As Naruto walked by he caught many stares and giggles from the villagers and the women. This truly shocked him. Most of the villagers that looked at him back in Konoha would curse at him or send small specks of killer intent. But he felt no such intent in most of the villagers' eyes as they walked on by. He could almost swear he seen a village girl wave at him. I think I am really going to like being here in Suna. Gaara, Naruto said as he entered the office with a foxy grin on his face. Naruto, Gaara said as he got up from his chair and gave his first and best friend a smirk. I have heard you will be staying in Suna for the next 5 years, Gaara said. You betcha, Naruto said as he shook his friend's hand. Well, I hope you don't mind, but you will be living in our place. Gaara said, no problem at all, but I am really hungry. Got any ramen stands? Naruto asked. Yes, not too far from our place. I will get Temari to escort you around the village, but as you are going to be in Suna, first things first, Gaara said as he walked over to his desk and pulled on a draw. As he pulled out a Suna Hittite and a scroll, he stood in front of Naruto. I, Gaara, the case of the hidden village of the sand, present. Uzumaki Naruto, the rank of Jonin, Gaara said as the scroll opened up and a vest popped out. He then put the headband in Naruto's hands and tossed him the beige vest. Thanks, Gaara, Naruto said as he took off his jacket. He then looked down at his clothing and quickly realized that orange did not go with the beige-colored vest. He grinned sheepishly and rubbed the back of his head. Got any stores where I could get a new outfit? So, you are now a Jonin now, huh? Temari said with a small smirk as she and Naruto walked through the village. It seems so. I was so busy fighting Akatsuki in the village that I didn't have time to compete at the Chunin exams. But honestly, it probably would have been too easy, Naruto said. Naruto looked around the village and took in the kind faces that greeted Temari and surprisingly, him. He held a very shocked and confused expression with each handshake and thanks that he got. What's wrong? You look as if you've just seen a ghost or something, Temari said as she giggled at Naruto's expression. It's just that, I would never get thanked in Konoha by the villagers. I'm just a little overwhelmed, he replied. Well, to be honest, this is just the beginning, Temari said with a smirk as her growing laughter tried to diminish. Beginning? Of what? Naruto asked as he scrunched up his eyes while putting both of his hands behind his head. Well, once news hits the village that one of the men who saved the cage has arrived for the next couple of years, the women will soon swoon over you, Temari said. She busted out in uncharacteristic laughter at Naruto's face as his mouth hung open and a loud, "Nani?" was heard throughout the village. After Temari finished chuckling, Naruto realized that this was the first time that he had heard her actually laugh. Hey, why are you so happy? Naruto asked. I'm not, Temari said as they finally entered the clothing shop for most of the Suna ninja. You're just a funny guy, she said blatantly. Naruto mumbled to himself as he looked around the room. Naruto quickly decided that he would go with all dark blue pants and a bunch of white tops. He quickly hopped into the changing room and came out with his newly purchased clothing and the Suna vest on. Now you look like a real ninja, Temari teased. Coming from a girl who fights with a fan, Naruto countered with a grin on. Temari instantly turned mad. Are you trying to say that just because I have a fan that I'm not a ninja? Temari asked. No, you said it. I bet you have not the slightest amount of taijutsu skills. All your power is probably depending on that fan of yours, Naruto said as his grin widened. That's it, Naruto, let's take this outside, Temari screamed as she grabbed him by his flak jacket and dragged him towards the door. But wait, I didn't pay in. It's free, the man shouted before the door closed. All right, Naruto, let's go, Temari said as she let go of him and stood across from him and got into a fighting stance. Whatever you say, Naruto said as he dropped into his stance. Naruto looked around as a circle began to form around them in curiosity. Naruto's foxy grin widened as he began to make a quick plan in his head. So what's the rules to this brief fight? Naruto said. No ninjutsu and no genjutsu, Temari answered as she put her arms up in an offensive position. Okay, Naruto said. In a blur, he moved and made to punch Temari in the face. She quickly sidestepped and roundhouse kicked him with her right leg. He fell forward but pushed off the floor and landed on his toes. You're fast, Temari said. You would be too if you had training with Rock Lee like I had, Naruto replied with a smirk. In another blur he began laying a bunch of set moves, right punch, left kick, and a left punch. Temari dodged 3 of the hits before receiving a punch that nicked her chin. The force of the punch sent her 3 steps back. She growled as she touched her chin. "He merely nicked my chin and it hurts like this," she thought. "I'll admit," Naruto said with a grin as he purposely let his guard down. "You have a little taijutsu skill. But you're still not all that go." Naruto never finished his sentence as Temari came running at him and began releasing a flurry of punches and kicks that Naruto dodged with Rai precision. She then sent a roundhouse kick aim for his ribs with her left leg, but he grabbed it with his right arm. She then lifted off of the floor and kicked him with her right leg to the side of his head. They both landed on the floor at the same time. Naruto then pushed off the floor while spinning and landing on his toes while Temari pushed off the floor and got back in her stance. Naruto gave her no chance to breathe as he was instantly on her the minute she got up. He sent a right kick to her shin followed by a right-handed shove to her gut with his palm open. He then did a left sweep kick and as she jumped, pushed off the floor with his hands and kicked her high up in the air with his right leg. As soon as she was up, he pushed off the floor and began punching her in her ribs, legs and arms from behind. He then grabbed onto her and wrapped his legs around her. Temari instantly began to panic as she knew exactly what he was going to do as they quickly approached the ground. She closed her eyes in fear and felt nothing. "All right, Temari. Good spar." She opened her eyes quickly to find that Naruto's arms were still wrapped around her, but she never touched the floor. They were inches off the floor and somehow not touching the ground. A blush made its way on Temari's face as she felt Naruto's strong arms around her. Naruto then flipped back up and released Temari as they touched the ground. "Your taijutsu is pretty good. But you need more work," Naruto said as the villagers clapped from the performance. All Temari could do to not pull out her fan and blow away Naruto was her curiosity itching at her. "Why did we not touch the floor?" Temari asked. "Because I used a wind jutsu to keep us from hitting the floor." "Oh yeah, I have an affinity for wind," Naruto said with a hint of sarcasm and excitement. Temari quickly turned around and walked off the minute the villagers closed the gap and began talking to Naruto. "How did he get so strong? Is this the same brat from the Chunin exams? I mean, I know he was strong, but how strong did he get?" Her thoughts were interrupted as Naruto soon caught up with her. "Hey, I was calling you. Why did you keep on walking?" Naruto asked. "Sorry, I was thinking. Where do you want to go?" Temari asked with a hint of anger. She was very confident in her skills and was quite angry to lose to Naruto in front of the villagers. She was known as one of the strongest kunoichi of Suna. To lose to Naruto so quickly would probably have many talking about her skills. "Well, I am hungry. Got any ramen shops around?" Naruto asked. "Yeah, let's go," she mumbled. "That ramen was pretty good. But Ichiraku's is way better," Naruto said as him and Temari walked to the house. "You eat a lot of ramen, don't you?" Temari asked. "I sure do. Ramen is my favorite food. I eat all types of ramen. Miso ramen, chicken ramen, beef ramen, pork ramen, sweet and sour." Temari blocked his voice out as she continues to think. "He's a strong fighter, but he's very annoying sometimes." Single quote. She cut her thoughts short as they finally approached the house. "We are here," she said. Naruto's jaw dropped as he came up to a house that rivaled with the Hyuga's mansion in size. This is where you guys live?" Naruto stuttered. "Well, Gaara is the cage. What did you expect?" Temari asked with a smirk as she pulled open the front gate. As Naruto entered the house, his eyes widened more at how big the living area was. He then created 5 shadow clones and had them look around while Temari took him to his room. As they climbed the stairs, Naruto came across a long hallway with at least 20 different doors. Temari walked on and stopped at a few doors, letting him know if it was Gaara's room or Konkuro's room or the bathroom. She then stopped in front of a door that had a bunch of kanji written all over it. Temari then turned around and could see the glint in her eye and knew she was serious. "This is my room. You are not to under any circumstances enter my room unless you are given permission to do so. If you do enter, you are not to make any movement unless told to do so. If you find yourself uninvited in my room, I will kill you." Naruto instantly shivered and sweat dropped as a weird genjutsu of red and screams appeared behind her as her head got bigger and a huge fan came into view. At Naruto's nod, Temari smirked. Okay, now for the next room, Temari said as all the aura of evilness quickly faded. This girl is scaring me, Naruto thought to himself. Temari came to a room not too far from hers. This is your room. She then handed him a key and opened it up. Naruto came into a room with a huge king-sized bed, a great view of the village, a nice comfortable couch, and big closet and door that he guessed was the bathroom. As Naruto walked in slowly, Temari talked. If you need anything, find it on your own. Just do not go into my room, she said as she closed the door. I must make sure I don't ever have to go in that girl's room, Naruto mumbled to himself. His shadow clones soon popped out of existence and he then knew almost every single room in the house. Naruto then stripped off his clothes and headed to the bathroom for a much-needed shower. That was the second chapter with Naruto finally reaching Suna and getting a pretty warm greeting. Now that Naruto is settled, he will slowly begin building a better relationship with Temari. I'm going to try and bring the comedy next chapter, so bear with me. Revised. July 31, 2013. All falls down. This is the third chapter edited. I will try to update as fast as I can. Let's continue with Naruto's first day at the Sand Trio's mansion and the events that will soon follow. This is when the fun begins. Don't own Naruto. If I did, I would have Itachi slay all the Uchihas while chewing on some Pocky. As Naruto finished bathing, he wrapped a towel around his waist and made his way to the mirror. He looked at his defined body and his blue eyes and messy arrangement of blonde hair. Not to be cocky, but Uzumaki Naruto is a handsome fellow, Naruto said as he pointed to himself with his thumb and smirk in the mirror. He then left the bathroom and forgot to lock the door. Big mistake. The minute he walked over to lock the door, it swung open and Temari came in with a bunch of scrolls. Hey Naruto, Kankuro said to drop your scrolls off in your room so. Temari's eyes widened and her face turned red as a tomato as she caught herself looking at Naruto's body. All the scrolls dropped onto the floor and Naruto froze on the spot, turning red as a tomato as well. As Gaara walked by, he looked at the embarrassing situation and continued walking with a smirk on his face. A long period of awkward silence continued as Temari's thoughts took her to another place. Naruto, he looks so hot. I wonder what's under that. No, this is Naruto. I shouldn't be thinking of what he could do with his Little did Temari know, her nose slowly began to bleed. Naruto quickly shook himself out of his daze and grabbed clothing and headed into the bathroom and came out within 10 seconds in his ninja gear and a towel. Temari-san, why your nose is bleeding, Naruto stammered as he slowly handed the towel to her as he kept his red face down. Thank you Naruto, Temari said as she grabbed the towel and began wiping her nose while avoiding eye contact. I'll get the scrolls. Yeah, the scrolls, Naruto said as he quickly scooped up the fallen scrolls and stood up with them in his arms inches away from Temari's face. They stood there looking into each other's eyes before screaming and coming up with excuses. I got to go and prepare dinner, Temari quickly said as she closed the door behind her. I'm going to read these scrolls now then, Naruto said as he sat down on the edge of his bed. Naruto sighed to himself as he began opening his scrolls and setting shadow clones to fix his room. Within minutes, his room was complete. He then decided to go out for a late-night walk around the village. As he closed the door, he turned around to meet the gaze of Gaara. He instantly yelped and jumped back before clutching his heart and sighing. This just threw more fire into Gaara's smirk. You're quite jumpy today, Naruto-san. You just scared me, that's all. I'm okay. Kankuro then opened up his door, which was across from Naruto, earning another from Naruto. You were saying, Gaara said lazily as Kankuro looked at Naruto in fascination and growing amusement. I knew having this kid here would be fun, Kankuro mumbled to himself as he closed his door. I'm going to go take a look around the village, so I'll be back, Naruto said as he eased his way to the stairs without taking his eyes off of Gaara. He was a little scared of him finding out that his sister had seen him half naked and wasn't about to be a victim to a desert coffin on his RST day. As Naruto reached the bottom of the stairs, he sighed and then made eye contact with Temari before the two yelped and looked away quickly. I'm going out for take look at village. Naruto mumbled as he lost all sense of coherent sentences. Oh, okay then. See you later, Temari said as she began making dinner. Naruto wasted no time opening and closing the door before leaving for a walk out in the village. As he walked through, he garnered many of the village girls' attention apparently. He had realized that fact the moment they circled around him as he walked. Eventually he stopped walking and faces the ongoing crowd of ladies. Yo, Naruto said as he gave them a wave and a foxy grin. He then sweat dropped when a majority of the village girls gave him a starry-eyed look that he seen the girls give Sasuke back at the academy. He briefly made a shadow clone and switched spots with it before continuing on throughout the villa. Eventually, he found his way onto a training area. As he walked on, he came upon a bunch of ninja training. Naruto instantly brightened up and approached them. He then dodged a hail of kunai that made its way over from the tress that inhabited the area. Naruto looked up and made eye contact with a bunch of ninja looking at him at the same time. The looks continued until finally Naruto spoke. What was that for? Naruto nearly shouted. Just wanted to see if you deserve that Junin vest. A man said as he walked up with his standard Suna Junin outfit, except he had a piece of cloth covering the left side of his face and had bandages covering his head. Oi, Baki, Naruto said as he walked up to the group of ninjas. Baki then slowly introduced Naruto to the Junin and Chunin that were in the area. As he was introduced to many of the kunoichi, he realized most of them turned red or stuttered like Hinata used to. A small pang of hurt came to him at that thought when talking to him. He had to know exactly why they did such things besides the obvious fact that they felt some type of way for him. He learned that much at least and asked Baki. You don't know. They haven't forgotten that you rescued Gaara. Your name is the name of a hero around here. Baki said with a smirk at Naruto's density. Hero? Naruto questioned as he scrunched his eyes up and leaned back in shock. Yes, honestly, what did they tell you guys in Konoha? Baki said as he shook his head and walked away. Naruto talked with some more Junin for a while and then decided to head back over to the house. He then waved goodbye to the Junin and poofed out of existence. The Junin were confused by the fact that the whole time, they had been talking to a shadow clone. They were instantly trying to figure out just who that guy really was. Real Naruto in the ramen shop. Thanks for the ramen, Naruto said as he left the ramen stand. Once he reached the house, Naruto could hear screaming and a bunch of things being thrown. He rushed into the house and dodged a kunai that implanted itself into the door he just came in through. From there, he could see a red-in-the-face Temari, a Gaara drinking tea, and a running Kankuro. What's going on? Naruto said as he sat next to Gaara on the dinner table. Kankuro made a joke about Temari seeing you naked. Gaara said as his head moved from left to right as Kankuro was getting chased by a scary Temari with a kunai in her hands. Naruto and Gaara's head then moved simultaneously from left to right as Temari screamed a ton of bad words and tossed many shuriken. Naruto, Temari screamed, face red and killer intent spiking to high levels. Naruto replied as he got up from his seat. Temari then grabbed him by the collar and tossed him at Kankuro in a dazzling amount of strength. Tell that pervert that I did not see you naked. She growled. But what? Temari said as she pulled out her fan. Quote! Naruto said quickly before running upstairs with gusto. Kankuro laughed as Temari chased after Naruto. Hey Gaara, what do you say we get those two together? Kankuro asked. Let's. Gaara said as his sand began making its way upstairs while fixing up the room. Upstairs. Naruto, I'm sorry for walking in on you while you were Temari said with her eyes looking at everything but Naruto as she came inside his room. It's okay. Let's just act as if it never happened. Naruto said. I don't think I can. Temari thought. I'll try. Temari said. Her eyes then widened as she just realized what she just said. I mean, forgotten. She said. I got to go now. Good night Naruto. Temari said as she opened up the door. Good night Temari. Naruto replied as he smiled and began pulling out his nighttime pajamas. As she opened the door and turned around to close it, she felt a hand slap her butt. At the same time, Naruto felt something push him closer to the door. He wasn't sure, but he could hear the distinct sound of sand, but he paid it no mind. As he was about to close the door, his hand slapped something soft. He slowly looked up and the sight he captured would give him nightmares for months. His hand was located on Temari's rear. "Naruto," she said as she looked at him and began to shake in fury. Naruto quickly moved his hands and backed away from her slowly as she removed her fan and put it on the floor and began cracking her knuckles slowly. "Temari, I didn't mean to. I mean I was trying to, but," Naruto stuttered. "You're going to pay for that, you pervert. Now I'll really show you how good at taijutsu I am." Temari closed the door behind her as she stepped in. Then the door locked, and the screams began. Downstairs, Kankuro laughed and Gaara tried to stifle his laughter as throughout the whole house, screams and begging were heard. "Temari, I did not mean to grab your, I'm sorry stop please I didn't, I'm sorry Datbayo." Quote, 5 months, Kankuro said with a smirk. 5 months, Gaara said. All right, the brothers are in on making Naruto's life a living hell by getting him with Temari. In case you're wondering, Gaara's sand pushed him to the door and Naruto's hand slapped Temari's rear. Next chapter, Kankuro's and Gaara's plan, the contents of the scroll, and attack of the kunoichi. Since Naruto will be in Suna for a few, I'll be creating tons of created character review if you will. Peace. Bring it back. Chapter 4 edited. Soon you will see the extremely apparent changes. Just prepare yourself. Anyway, let's get on with the aftermath of Chapter 3. I don't own Naruto. If I did, Naruto would have a huge fan club, bigger than that Uchiha brat. My head. Naruto slowly got out of bed in the wee hours of the morning. Last night, he had one of the most hurtful beatings of his life by one Temari for violating her. The problem was, he had no idea what happened. He was nowhere near her when she was leaving yet, he found himself not only by the door, but touching her, acid. He sincerely hoped he would not have to cross paths with her. "Oh yeah, the scroll I was supposed to read," Naruto said. Naruto then picked up the scroll and bit his thumb. He then smeared all the blood over the scroll and as it opened up, a bunch of things fell to the floor. The minute Naruto looked at what fell to the floor, his eyes almost popped out of his head. "I don't believe this." 3 hours later, as the Sand Trio were eating breakfast and getting ready for the day which featured paperwork for the cage and training Genin for the other two. As the two talked about their task for the day, they then realized that Naruto had not come down yet. "I refuse to be in the same room with that pervert," Temari said as she crossed her arms and HMPHED. "What do you mean? What happened?" Kankuro said with mock excitement, which went unnoticed by Temari. "That little pervert slapped my butt. I can't believe the nerve of that boy." Temari growled. She was a strong kunoichi and refused to let that slap of her acid slide. "Well, you two better make up, because we're taking him to help train the Genin," Kankuro said with a smirk. "What?" Temari screamed. "I refuse to be a mere inch close to that ungrateful body snatcher," she said as she slammed her hands down. "You have no choice in the matter," Gaara said in his normal monotone. He then got up and waved the two goodbyes as he disappeared in a cloud of sand. As Temari grumbled about pummeling Naruto to the ground if he even looks at her, the two heard a loud sound that sounded like thunder. They then felt an immense amount of chakra being used. The two looked at each other before grabbing their weapons and running towards the area they felt the disturbance. Training ground. As they entered the training ground, they found their area to be a complete and utter disaster. The ground had many cracks, the walls were crumbling, and the cause of all of it was laying in the middle of the ground with his t-shirt ripped to shreds. "What the hell happened in here?" Temari yelled as she looked away from him as she felt her cheeks getting hot just looking at Naruto's body. She refused to look at such a pervert even though to her, his body was of a god. "Heh, just trying to perfect a technique I've been learning. Didn't think 50 shadow clones could do so much damage though," Naruto said as he began scratching his head while panting in a huge crater. "What kind of kunai are? Wait, these are." Kankuro's eyes widened as he picked up a weird-looking kunai with a seal written on it. "Yeah, the Yondaime's seal for his special jutsu. Or should I say, my father's," Naruto said as he grinned and hanged into his own version of the Yondaime as his hair grew and a cape with orange flames at the bottom appeared on him. His neck also held a rope which showed that he was a master of seals. He then grinned and held his thumb up in a nice guy pose. "Your father," Temari said with her jaw wide open. That's right. I always wondered why Jiraiya taught me many techniques that had to do with the fourth. Naruto said as he unhanged himself and began picking up the kunai one by one. So, what's the agenda for today? Naruto said as he finally picked up the last of his kunai. We got to train some genin today, so you're coming along with us. Kankuro said slowly. He was still in shock at the fact that the boy in front of him was the fourth Hokage of Konoha's son. Okay, cool, Naruto said. Let me change my clothing. I have been working for at least 4 hours on this technique. While I'm nowhere near finishing the technique completely, I should be able to get it fully down packed in about 6 months to a year. Naruto said as he took up the kunai from Kankuro's hands and ran past Temari really fast. He refused to get her mad and would remain away from her all day if he could help it. The two just stood in the same spots 15 minutes later when Naruto returned. Hello, I thought you had genin to train, Naruto said. The two snapped out of their trance and left the grounds to head to the Suna Academy to teach. Suna Academy. Hello class, we have a new teacher today. This is Naruto Uzumaki and he will be teaching with us from now on. Quote, yo, Naruto said with a grin on. Naruto then felt a bunch of girls, googly eyeing him. He then nervously scratched the back of his head. Now I know how Sasuke felt. I can't believe I was jealous of him now. Naruto thought. Okay class, you guys will break up and choose who you want to teach you. Kankuro said. He instantly regretted this sentence, because as soon as he said choose, almost all the girls lined up in front of Naruto. Maybe you should have done a draft, Temari said in his ear. For some weird reason, she felt some weird feeling towards the girls who circled Naruto, for what she could not understand. I think I will, Kankuro mumbled as he face-palmed. 5 minutes later, the class was evenly split up with 5 for each nin. Yosh. So usually, from what I have been hearing, I'm supposed to give you some boring old lecture about the history of training and why we are shinobi, blah, blah, blah. Naruto said with a bored voice. But today, we are going to do things my way, Naruto said as he pointed to himself. The 3 girls that were in his group began ogling again and he briefly sweat dropped before continuing. Okay, I'm going to see what you 5 can do. So, Naruto made a series of hand signs before 5 other Narutos came right behind him. Humph, what kind of cheap trick is that? One boy said. Naruto felt the boy had an attitude like Sasuke. He thought about how to kick him off his high horse and bring him back down to reality. Okay Mr. Tough Guy, you go first. Let's see what you got. Naruto said as he tried to think of the boy's name. Kazuma Minashi. 1, the boy stated. He then got into a battle stance as one of the clones stepped up. The boy ran full speed and tossed a right-hand punch at the clone who quickly sidestepped and pushed the boy to the floor. The boy's mouth opened wide as he actually felt the clone touch him. Hey, this is supposed to be a regular bunshin, it can't touch me. Minashi shouted. You're wrong. This is a cage bunshin. Every single one of these clones here has their own chakra. Naruto said blatantly. Humph. Minashi said as he stood back up and dusted his clothes. As the other 4 students went, he instantly realized that the girls were sadly poor at taijutsu. Meanwhile the other boy in his group was pretty good at it. Okay, after evaluating you 5, I would say only one of you guys pass at taijutsu. Naruto said to the genin's disappointment. Who's the one that passed? Surely it must be me. Minashi stated. You, nope. The one who passed is Izumo. Naruto said as he pointed at the kid. The boy had brown hair and black eyes with a white shirt and dark blue ninja slacks. The boy's eyes widened as Naruto called his name. Me, yes you. You showed that your skill in taijutsu is very strong. You passed with flying colors. Naruto then went into one of the zippers in his flak jacket and handed each of them scrolls. Now, the 5 of you should practice more on your taijutsu, and at the end of the week, I will quiz you guys on how far you have come. And if you all get better, I might teach you 5 a new jutsu. Naruto said with a smirk. Really? The 5 shouted. You bet. Now for our next lesson, how to accurately throw a kunai. Now the first thing that works really well is 5 hours later. Alright, you guys have all done well today, tomorrow we will meet at the same time, class dismissed. Kankuro said. As the class left and ran off to get picked up by their family, Naruto came over to Kankuro. "So, how was your group?" Naruto asked. "They are pretty okay. But I can tell that all 5 of them are going to be great ninja." "Yeah, me too. Though I have to get a few of mine to work harder. It seems the fangirls really need to learn how to train. I would hate for them to turn out like how Sakura and Ino used to be back in the days where they were genin." Naruto said with a small shudder. I see what you mean. Their levels were pitiful during the Chunin exams. I still wondered how the 2 made it so far. Kankuro said. "Who cares? Anyway, I got to go and collect these kunai. I'll see you later." Naruto said quickly, and he ran to pick up kunai as Temari came along. "Woo, that was a close one," Naruto thought. "Excuse me," a voice said. Naruto turned around with his handful of kunai, and dropped them as he looked at who was in front of him. A girl with dark green hair and beautiful purple eyes came up to him. She had on a tan short skirt that went down to her knees and a white shirt under a Chunin vest. Naruto nearly had a nosebleed as his eyes abandoned him and looked at the curves of her body. "Why yes, how may I help you?" Naruto said as he quickly picked up the kunai. "Why yes, my name is Saya. I came to ask about the progress of my little brother." The girl said. "Okay, and who might your brother be?" Naruto said. Naruto's eyes quickly widened as the boy came from behind the girl. "Oh, Minashi," Naruto said as he pointed at the boy who looked at him with the same unemotional eyes that Sasuke used to look at him with. "Yes, this is my brother, the next heir of the Kazuma clan," she said with a friendly smile. "Well, Minashi shows promise. But he really needs to not underestimate people. He also needs to work on his taijutsu some more," Naruto said as he put all the kunai into a scroll and sealed them. "I see. Thank you for the progress report, Mr. Uzumaki." Naruto said as he grinned at her and shook her hand. The girl blushed from his grin and giggled a little bit. "What's so funny?" Naruto asked. "Well, it's just that you're kind of cute," Saya said. Naruto's face instantly turned red and he began stuttering about how she was embarrassing him. Naruto then decided to ask her out to lunch. "Hey Saya, are you busy right now? It would be my pleasure to take you and your brother out to lunch. I'm kind of new around here and I'm just trying to meet the people of this village." Naruto said. "Sure, where did you have in mind?" Saya said as she and Naruto walked away, leaving a somewhat neglected Minashi, a smirking Kankuro, and a fuming Temari. "Why am I mad? It's just Naruto, right? I can't possibly be jealous, can I?" Temari thought to herself. She then growled and began leaving the premises of the academy. Kankuro smirked as he watched Temari storm off. "Somebody's a little jealous," Kankuro mused to himself. 3 hours later, Temari looked at the scenery of Suna from above the Cage Tower. For the past 3 hours, she could not get the blonde-haired brat out of her mind. For reasons she did not know, she was also very mad at him. "If I see that brat I'm going to, oi, Temari." Temari instantly cringed once she recognized the voice. "What do you want, pervert?" she snapped at him. Naruto stopped walking towards her and his eye twitched at being called a pervert. "Take that back, I am not a pervert," Naruto screamed. "Yes you are, you little punk." Temari growled. "Punk, I am the same height as you." Naruto growled back. "But who's the older one here?" Temari said as she turned around and looked at him. "So what? Age is nothing but a number. And you cannot call me a pervert. I saw the way you were looking at me," Naruto said as his anger instantly changed into a character of a sly fox. Temari stuttered and a blush appeared on her face. "Whatever, you're still a pervert," Temari said as she looked away from him. "Am not," Naruto screamed. "You are. Take it back," Temari growled as she reached for her fan. "Take it back," Naruto mocked. As he put his hands on his hips and wiggled. "What are you going to do with that fan?" "Blow me away. You're forgetting who also has a wind affinity," Naruto said with a smirk. Temari growled and a knot appeared on her head before she turned around and calmed down. "What are you doing up here anyway?" she said as she continued to look at the view. "I wanted to apologize," Naruto said as he blushed a little. "For being a pervert, apology unaccepted," Temari said with a hint of rudeness. "What? Come on, I am not a pervert. What do I need to do to prove to you that I am not a pervert?" Naruto asked. He instantly regretted it as Temari turned around and smirked at him. What do you need to do to show you're not a pig? Temari said as turned around fully and she stepped closer. Naruto instantly took a step back. Why yeah, Naruto said. I got the perfect idea. Temari said with a mischievous look in her eyes. What do you have in mind? Naruto asked. Temari then rose her hand up in the air. Naruto instantly closed his eyes and covered his face. Even thought the wounds were easily healed thanks to the Kyuubi, he refused to be struck again. You are going to take me out? Temari said as she pointed at him. If she was going to figure out why he made her feel like the way she felt, she might as well go out on with him as friends and nothing more to sort this out. Besides, she was competitive and refused to lose her chance to the green-haired girl he was with. Huh? Naruto asked as he instantly let down his guard. Tomorrow night, you are going to get dressed up and you are going to take me on a night out on the town. But, it won't be considered a date. As such, don't touch me. Don't look at me, it is just going to be two ninja on a night out enjoying ourselves. That is how you can show me you're not a pervert. Temari said with finality. You got it. Naruto said as he scratched the back of his head nervously. Better ask Kankuro where to get some new clothing. I refuse to go out with you in ninja outfit. Temari said as she walked towards the roof steps. Oh, don't give me that. Don't let the orange fool you, I know a little bit about how to dress. Naruto said with a small smirk that brought a shiver up her spine. Pick me up at 7 tomorrow night. Don't be late, she said as she quickly left the premises. Naruto stood there looking at the horizon before asking himself a question he had been waiting to ask. What did I just get myself into? Naruto said to himself. And whoever heard of going out with someone but it not being a date? Weird. Okay. The date that is not a date has been made. Don't worry, it won't instantly lead to the two of them dating, they have a couple years to get together. I will be taking things very slow unlike last time. Many others will be stopping them from getting with each other. The Kazuma clan, I made it up. Prepare to see a lot from them. Next chapter. The hangout, the confusion and the other girl. Also, Tsunade's resolve broken as she gets pressured into letting the nin of Konoha know where Naruto went. Peace. Second time around. Don't own Naruto. Start. So she wants to go out with you. But not as a date. This is unexpected. Kankuro said with a confused look. Yeah, whatever. So what am I to do? Where should I take her? What kind of flowers should I get her? Where should we go afterwards? Naruto blazed Kankuro with a flurry of questions as the two traveled through the village. Why would you need flowers if it is just a hangout? Asked Kankuro. Good question. I just figured why not? Naruto said with a shrug. Well, if I was hanging out with a girl, I wouldn't get any flowers. But, I'll tell you what, maybe you should buy some for yourself, if anything, to show her that you have the thoughtfulness to do so if she ever wanted to go out on a real date with you. Said Kankuro as Naruto nodded. And don't worry, Kankuro said. You are a friend of the Kazekage and Temari is my sister, you are a pretty lucky man right now. Kankuro said. He then took Naruto to look at many restaurants and made reservations at one called, the Smooth Winds. After that, Kankuro took Naruto to a flower shop. So the desert lily is her favorite flower. Naruto said. You got it. Kankuro said. I guess I'll buy a dozen then. Now where can I take her after dinner? Naruto asked. Before Kankuro could ask, he heard a woman's voice call out Naruto and the two turned around to see Saya and her brother Minashi walking towards them. Kankuro smirked as Naruto ran up and the two began talking. So Naruto has another girl that likes him. I see why Temari told him to take her out on this hangout. She doesn't know if she likes him but wants all the attention from him to herself. Good luck Temari. You and I know full well this kid is dense. Kankuro thought as Naruto and Saya continued chatting before waving to each other and going their separate ways. Naruto then froze the minute he turned around before rushing over to Kankuro. Let me guess, she asked you out and you said the day after this hangout with Temari. Kankuro said. How did you know that? Naruto said with his mouth opened. Can't tell you that. Anyway, let's put these flowers on standby. Kankuro said as him and Naruto continued on throughout the village. As they continued walking, Naruto stopped a couple times to either give kids money or help old people out. This kid hasn't been here for a week yet and he's already helping out. You truly are a weird one, Naruto. Meanwhile in Konoha, tell us, no, tell us, no. For the past few days, Sakura and many of the Konoha 12, now 11, were pestering Tsunade for information on where Naruto went. To them, things felt weird now that the hyperactive blonde was gone from the village. Shockingly, even some of the villagers began wondering where the hyperactive demon brat was. Come on Tsunade-sama, you have to tell us why Naruto left, where he went, and for how long. One of those would be okay, Sakura said as she and Ino were in the office. Tsunade knew full well that she could not tell them any of the two that because they would instantly try and get Naruto to come back. I cannot and will not tell you that. Information on this mission has now been reinstated as an SS-class mission, Tsunade said firmly before going over some paperwork. The two Kunoichi jaws dropped as they heard that the mission was an SS-class mission. They knew now that wherever Naruto left to, that they would not find out. Okay, then just tell us how long he will be gone for, Sakura said. A long time, Tsunade said quickly in hopes that that answer would have been enough. She thought wrong. And how long is a long time? A month? A year? Sakura asked with a hint of worry in her voice. The one person she still relied on to make her feel better was gone for a long time and she now had no one to depend on. What was she to do? Tsunade sighed and mulled over the thought of releasing this info before deciding to just say it. 5 years. As if on K, Ino screamed, and Sakura shouted out aloud, "What?" That could be heard all the way in Suna. Meanwhile, "Hey Kankuro, you hear something?" Naruto asked. Nope. Oh well. As the two finally entered the house, Naruto dropped the amount of bags he had in his arms. He instantly regretted not making some shadow clones hold them but thought he would have plenty time. He then picked up his bags and made his way upstairs. As he came to his bedroom door, he heard a voice call his name. He then turned around to see Temari looking straight at him in what looked to be shorts with a t-shirt on. Naruto had to suppress a nosebleed as he looked at the shirt that was hugging tightly to her form. Hey Naruto, I was about to head to the pool with some other nin. Want to come along? Temari asked as she waved the towel in his face to show him that she was about to head out. She figured this would get her more time to get to know him a little better, nothing too big. Usually Naruto would have said no but he figured he could meet the other nin of Suna. Sure, why not? Let me get changed. See you downstairs in a sec, and with that Naruto opened his door and closed it. And then opened it in under 10 seconds. Temari's face turned a horrible display of red as Naruto came out with a tank top that showed off his bulging muscles, swimming shoes and a towel wrapped around his neck. Ready, Naruto said, oblivious to the blush. Or so Temari thought. Why is your face so red? You sick? Naruto asked as he touched her forehead. Naruto knew full well why she was blushing. He knew many things. He just loved to act like he was dumb. It gave him a reason to bother Temari. And no, I am perfectly fine, Temari said as she slapped her hand away and a blush set on her face. Well, okay, anyway, let's go, Naruto said as he grabbed her hand and ran down the steps and out the door with her. As they ran outside, Temari asked the one question she had been meaning to ask the minute they exited. Do you even know where the pool is? Temari asked with a, you don't do you, expression on her face. Naruto laughed and scratched the back of his head with his other hand, seeing as how his hand he usually scratched his head with was in Temari's soft hands. I guess I don't, Naruto said with a grin. Follow me, Temari said as she walked the opposite way in which Naruto was going. Behind her, Naruto had a very pensive look on his face as he began thinking. I wonder if she knows that she still is holding my hand. At the pool, as the two came onto the pool deck, they were instantly greeted by a makeup and gourd-less Gaara and a nin with black eyes and brown hair which was too long and almost like a girl's hairstyle as it came down to his shoulders. Temari-san, who is this boy that is holding on to your perfect hands? The man said with a look of annoyance. Temari then looked down and saw she was indeed holding Naruto's hand. She quickly released her hold on them to Naruto's displeasure. Naruto wasted no time introducing himself. Name's Naruto, not boy, though I wish I could call you a boy for that matter. Naruto said with a growl before changing his expression to a cocky smirk as he crossed his arms over his chest and looked around. As he looked around, he caught the eyes of many blushing kunoichi. Okay, now I really know why Sasuke never paid attention to his fangirls. The man spoke, breaking Naruto out of his thoughts. The name is Kairo, boy. The man said as he turned to Temari. Temari-san, anything that you need, I swear I shall give it to you. Kairo said, weird dazzling grin that teeth sparked in a manner similar to Guy and Rock Lee as he bowed to her and walked away after giving a, she's mine so back off, smirk to Naruto. Naruto blinked at the weirdness for a minute before walking off and sitting down on a pool chair. Gaara and Kankuro had not said a word yet and both merely shrugged and walked away to their own chairs. Temari then walked over to the kunoichi that inhabited the poolside. The minute she sat down, she was reined by many of them. Who's the hunk you brought in? One asked. His name is Naruto. She said as her eye twitched. He's cute. Does he have a girlfriend? Before Temari could answer, another girl asked another question. Are you his girlfriend, Temari? Temari paled as she stuttered a no. Then why were you holding his hand? Temari had no time to answer as she was barricaded with a bunch of questions. Naruto smirked as his fox senses heard every single comment from the girls. Naruto then made his way over to Gaara and Kankuro. I see you have thought about my shadow clone idea then, Gaara. Naruto said as he sat down on a chair next to them. Yes, it has been of great usage. Gaara stated. Good, Naruto said as he relaxed. The three began talking about many things such as the upcoming Chunin exams, the genin that needed to be trained for it, how the exams would be held in Konoha again, how. Wait, what? Naruto screamed. His outburst caused a chain reaction of silence. Naruto had no idea on how to save himself from embarrassment, but quickly came up with one. What is everyone doing outside of the pool? I say, we all. Naruto quickly picked up Kankuro and tossed him into the pool before pushing Gaara in. Jump in. Naruto then backed up and ran before instantly somersaulting into the pool in a great splash. Most of the nin paled at Naruto pushing the cage into the pool. Many knew they would be dead just thinking about it. It just made for more questions about this Naruto guy from both the kunoichi and the nin. This Naruto sure knows how to be energetic. I wonder what else he's energetic about. One kunoichi said as she and the others giggled. Temari scowled at the perverted kunoichi before she felt something pick her up. She quickly turned to see a drenched Naruto holding her and had an evil grin on. She instantly knew what he was about to do and refused to go down without a fight. Naruto, you wouldn't dare. She growled. Naruto just merely smiled. Sorry, but I'm not Naruto. I'm just a clone sent to toss people in the water. It's an order form the cage. See. The clone then pointed to the kunoichi Temari was with. Temari looked on as the other kunoichi were getting grabbed by Naruto clones. She scoffed as she looked at them hardly putting up a fight and grabbing onto the clones to bring them into the pool with them. Then if you're a clone, I could do this. Temari then punched the clone dead in the chest. She then waited for the poof, but got none as the clone grabbed her in his arms and lifted her off the ground. Bridal style. Did I say clone of Naruto? I meant the real Naruto. Now get ready to get thrown in. Temari was mad and a little excited as Naruto ran to the pool and jumped in holding Temari. She instantly felt the cold water on her and came to a startling realization. Her hair had just gotten done for the hangout. Temari grabbed onto Naruto's neck tightly as they re-emerged from underwater. What's wrong? Can't swim? Naruto teased. His grin came off his face as he looked at Temari's angry look. Naruto, my hair, Temari growled as she crashed her head into his. After this, you are going to go get your wallet. You are going to take me to a hair parlor, and then you're going to pay for my hair to be done up again. Do I make myself clear? Temari whispered in a harsh tone. Crystal, Naruto whispered. Woman were weird. He then moved her body so that she was on his back and instantly blushed hard as he felt her assets on his back. As he slowly made his way to shore, he finally stood up and got slammed underwater by a growling Temari. Naruto no baka, how dare you toss me in the pool with my hair just done? I should drown you, right now you little punk. Temari said as she picked him up and began choking him. I can't tell if I'm better Off with her, or Sakura. Naruto said as he began getting punched and choked as most people at the pool laughed at the sight or grimaced at it. 4 hours later. Ah, that was relaxing. Temari said. Speak for yourself. Naruto mumbled. What was that? Temari screamed. Nothing. Naruto said. As the two walked back from the hair salon, Naruto thought of everything that happened at the pool. He had met the kunoichi and they all had looked at him fully the whole time once or twice through the conversations. He also realized how mad Temari looked every time he peeked over to take a look at her. He didn't know why he would find himself looking at her, but he didn't mind. But he also found himself getting mad whenever there was a nin in the area as well. As they approached the home, Naruto came up with a perfect idea and place to take Temari after the dinner. Well, see ya tomorrow for our hangout, Naruto said with a grin on. Yeah, good night Naruto-kun, she said. Good night Temari-chan, Naruto replied as the two closed their doors, completely forgetting the added preferences until they closed the door. Kankuro heard all of this as he read his ICHA Paradise book on his bead and began to count down until the unavoidable shout that was bound to happen. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, what did I just say? Quote, NNNNNNNNNNNNNNNNNNNNNNNNNNNNNNNNNNNNNNNNNNNNNNNNNNNNNNNNNNNNNNNNNNNNNNNNNNNNNNNNNNNNNNNNNNNNNNNNNNNNNNNNNNNNNNNNNNNNNNNNNNNNNNNNNNNNNNNNNNNNNNNNNNNNNNNNNNNNNNNNNNNNNNNNNNnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnn hours before the hangout approaches. What is Naruto's plan for after the dinner? And will the hangout go as planned? And then what will he do about the date the day after? Single quote. Find out next chapter. End of the road and changes. Okay, the moment I have been waiting for, Naruto's date with a certain Suna girl. Let's go. Don't own Naruto. Sensei, are you okay? Naruto. Sensei. What happened? You got kicked in the head. You need to pay attention, Sensei. Oh, sorry, I just have a lot on my mind right now. Let's call it a day, guys, shall we? Naruto said as he picked himself off the floor. The last thing he had remembered was fighting the 5 students he had been training when he began thinking about many things all at once. He was thinking about the fact that he would have to go to Konoha for the Chunin exams, mastering his father's jutsu, the hangout he would have to get ready for in 2 hours. I got to go and get ready. Naruto zoomed out of the training grounds as he made his way to the house to prepare for the upcoming hangout. His ideas were all planned out and everything seemed to be going great so far. He had reservations at a nice restaurant, he had a place that he thought was perfect to view the village and talk, he even had a place to take her to after they went sightseeing. He also bought some pretty nice treads from the clothing store. He really did not know why he had planned so much for it, but he felt he had to at least leave a first impression. To be honest, it was his first hangout with another girl and he wasn't exactly used to the idea of it. 2 hours later, a knock came on Temari's front door. As she opened it, Kankuro stood in her doorway grinning ear to ear. This annoyed Temari to no end. What are you grinning for, you baka? She asked. My sister is finally going on a hangout. Coincidentally, this is the first hangout since that Shikamaru situation. Kankuro said as he leaned on the doorpost. Temari decided not to say anything about it. The relationship she had with Shikamaru didn't really happen the way she would have liked it, but for her, life goes on. Is that what you knocked on my door for? Temari asked. She wore a red yukata with a yellow wrap around her waist and a yellow dragon going down the left side. She decided to let her hair down so it reached past her shoulders. She also had her fan on her back, but the fan was a different one that looked more elegant but was still a dangerous weapon. Well, you have someone waiting for you at the front door. Don't keep him waiting, Kankuro said as he turned around and went back in his room. Temari was a little giddy but decided that Naruto would somehow mess up this date, so her giddiness disappeared as fast as it came up. He would probably wear his same orange and black outfit. But she didn't care. As long as he took her out, she wouldn't mind. As she came down the steps and opened the front door, she froze on the spot. The Naruto she was looking at wore a nice white button-down shirt with a dazzling necklace hanging in front. Beige slacks with brown shoes and a nice long beige trench coat finished his look. His hind was behind his back. When he removed it, she gasped. In his arms were half a dozen of her favorite desert lilies. I know it's a hangout and all, but still, I figured I'd get you some lilies. Naruto said. Thank you, she said as she also blushed and took up the lilies to put them in a vase. She then came back to the door and smiled as Naruto held it open for her. Lilies. New outfit. Being a gentleman, this is unexpected Naruto, she said. Well, I am unpredictable, so I've heard, Naruto said as he flashed another foxy grin at a still blushing Temari. As they entered the restaurant, Naruto went up to the desk and said his reservation under the name, Namikaze. The waiter led him and Temari to a private booth that was located in the back of the restaurant. After the two ordered, they began talking. So how are you doing so far? Are you enjoying yourself? Naruto asked. What kind of question is that? We have just got here, Temari said as she drank her glass of water. I suppose you're right. Okay then, I asks you a different question. How have I been so far? Am I annoying you like you thought I would do? Naruto asked as he looked at her across the table from his spot. To be honest, yes you are, Temari said with a smirk. Oh, really? I don't think I've been that bad, Naruto said as he put his hand under his chin in a thinking pose. But not as annoying as I thought you are. It's a good annoying, she said quickly. Okay, that's okay, Naruto said with a smile. Can I ask you a question, Naruto? Temari said. You just did, but ask away, Naruto replied. He laughed as Temari shook her head at him. Why did you decide to leave Konoha for a couple years? What made you leave? Temari asked slowly. Naruto pondered the question for a while before inhaling and answering. It was too much for me. The villagers never ever changed their glares and words at me. I couldn't take it anymore. Not only that, but the minute Sasuke returned, the council decided to raise his rank to Junin. Meanwhile, I was still stuck as a lowly genin. Knowing full well I could beat half if not all of the current Junin including Sasuke. Plus, the one girl I loved, thought I loved, decided that once Sasuke came back to just forget about me and went for him. And this time he accepted her. I couldn't take it anymore. Hearing the horrid villagers' words, seeing those two cuddling and kissing whenever I come around them. I don't deserve that. Naruto paused for a while because he knew he was just getting started. I defeated many of Akatsuki. I stopped your brother from destroying Konoha. I endured 17 years of being called dead last, or demon. There was no reason for me to have precious people there. I know that, but when your precious people are so low in number, it really doesn't make sense to stay. Not only that, but to throw twigs into the pitiful forest fire of deception, Sasuke suddenly gets a nomination for the next Rokudan. Not only that, the one person who has loved me since I was young, died in my arms and I never got the chance to explore my feelings for her. I didn't know and now I'll never know if it ever would have been mutual. Naruto paused as he felt a warm tear slide down his face. Do you know how it feels to put your everything in anything you do and at the end of it, you get nothing? Do you know how it feels to feel lonely for so long and when you finally find people to comfort you, you still feel alone? Do you know how it feels to find out that the one person who considered you a hero and loved you, died for you? That the one who you looked up to was not only the person who sealed a demon in you and caused you horrible pain and a horrible life, but he is also your father? Do you know how it feels when the ones who knew for so long never told you? Naruto said as more tears came down. He quickly wiped his face. He then felt arms wrap around him. His head quickly sprung up to find Temari's arms wrapped around him. I'm sorry life has been so hard for you. Sorry you have been betrayed so many times. Sorry for all the pain you must have felt, all the loneliness. Temari whispered to him as tears rolled off her face as well. The two of them just remained like that for a while even after the dinner came. Naruto then decided to change the conversation and the two started talking about other things that was going on around them. When the dinner was finished, Naruto led Temari outside. So where to next? Temari asked. That's a surprise, Naruto said with an I know something you don't smirk on his face. Temari decided to just leave the response be. They soon came up to a playground that was empty. Naruto brought her up to a swing set and told her to sit down. We are going to go back to being kids again for a little bit. So with that being said, Naruto then hanged into an 8-year-old Naruto and grabbed another set of swings next to her. Let's have fun. Temari stared at him oddly before smiling and also hanging into her 8-year-old self. A couple hours later, Temari was having the time of her life playing tag with him, running down slides, seeing who can swing the highest, playing on monkey bars. It was amazing. When she was young she never had the chance to do this as she was kept inside all day training. This felt so much like what her childhood should have been like. "Tag, you're it," Naruto said as he slapped her arm playfully and ran away. Temari laughed before giving chase and running after him. She chuckled as he used ninja skills and hopped over things. Eventually he ran out of the playground and led her somewhere. She continued chasing him, not caring where they were going. Eventually Naruto stopped running and was tackled into the sand as they had run into a field where training was done. As Temari landed on top of Naruto covered in sand, the two laughed as they let go of their henge and were panting from the long run. "Having fun," Naruto said with a smirk. "I am. Thank you for a nice night out and for being a gentleman." "Maybe you're not a pervert after all," said Temari with a smirk. "I'm telling you, I didn't mean to do that. I was merely going to touch the door, when something pushed me towards you." Naruto said. "Pushed you? Really? I felt something push me, too." Temari and Naruto's eyes bulged as they knew what happened. "Gaara!" The two simultaneously yelled. "I knew something was wrong. I heard some sand but didn't think anything of it," said Naruto as he grumbled. He then broke into a smile. "Hey, up for getting back at him, and Kankuro, who I'm sure was in it as well?" asked Naruto as a very foxy grin appeared, making Temari feel that cold sweat again. What do you have in mind?" she asked as she unconsciously snuggled into Naruto as she was a little cold. "Well, how about?" Naruto whispered in her ear, Temari struggling to not show signs of him affecting her. In a way, no one ever would. No, but her ears were very sensitive to anyone's touch and he was right at that spot. When he finished, she inwardly breathed in relief then smiled and agreed. "You are very mischievous, aren't you, Naruto?" she said with a smile. "You can say that again," Naruto replied with an equal smile. They looked at each other for a while in silence before Naruto finally made movement. Let's go home, shall we?" Naruto said as he let go of her reluctantly. After the two got up and dusted themselves off, they left the other alone to think on their own. "She smells so good. I don't think I wanted to get up honestly. I hope she is not mad at me. I just couldn't help myself. I can't explain it." Naruto thought to himself. "He's so warm. I hope he doesn't think I'm mad or anything. I'm just so confused. I mean, it's Naruto. But, is that really a bad thing?" Temari thought as she looked over at Naruto. As they walked back, Naruto noticed Temari shivering. He smiled and took off his trench coat and wrapped it around him. Temari blushed as she felt warmth float from her stomach to her face and gave small thanks. They soon reached the house. As Naruto held the door open for Temari and went up the steps right behind her, she called him before he walked to his door. "Naruto, I hope you don't think I'm mad at you," she said. "You're not?" Naruto asked, a little shocked. "Not at all. I don't think there is anything wrong because nothing happened. We were just trying to catch our breath and it was kind of cold, right?" she asked. "Yeah, you are right. Never thought the weather would be so cold at nights. I'll get used to it. I'm glad you had a good night," Naruto said with a smile. "I did. We should do this again. How about tomorrow?" she asked with a small blush and smile. Naruto's face fell. As much as he wanted to, he couldn't. "I would have loved to but I can't. I kind of have a date tomorrow," Naruto said, not looking at her. Temari felt a weird feeling. She could not describe it but she felt a little mad at Naruto. "Okay, that's fine. Well, thank you and good night," Temari said as she quickly opened and closed the door. As she closed the door, she put her back to it and lunged for the bed. As she collapsed, she continually asked herself why Naruto made her feel this way. As the door closed, Naruto released the breath he never knew he held. He had a weird feeling that Temari felt mad. Naruto quickly walked to his room and closed it. He made no movement to turn on the lights. He just stayed by the door with it closed and closed his eyes. As he slowly slid down to the floor, all he could think about was about Temari had said at the restaurant. "I'm sorry life has been so hard for you. Sorry you have been betrayed so many times. Sorry for all the pain you must have felt. All the loneliness. There we go. Sorry it took me so long to update. But I had a bunch of ideas running through my head. Anyway, double feature. 2 chapters in one, since it just needed to be edited. Enjoy. Naruto-san. Huh, you got hit again. Wah. Naruto looked up and indeed he was laid out on the training ground floor with his 5 students looking down on him. Are you okay? This is the second day in the row that you have hit the floor. Minashi said. No nothing, just thinking. Naruto said as he got up and dusted himself off. He then dismissed his students and went to the house to shower and get ready for his second date. At the house, as soon as Naruto entered the house, he ducked as a barrage of kunai and shuriken hit the door he just came in from. Sorry. A voice rang from the kitchen. Naruto's sweat dropped as he made his way in to see who would throw weapons at the door. He found his answer as Temari came into view sitting on the kitchen counter reading a ninja magazine that had a display of battle fans. What was that for? Naruto asked. He had an idea of why she threw it. He just wanted to see if she would answer his question. She didn't. Naruto shrugged and decided to see what would happen if he announced his date again. Well, I'm going to take a shower and get ready for my date. See why? Naruto never finished his sentence as another round of kunai and shuriken made their way to him. He quickly shunshined away to his room giggling. Never chalked her up to be the jealous type. Let's see how far I can take this. Single quote. 1 hour later, Naruto left the Subaku estate in black shoes with blue jeans and a navy blue shirt with an orange tie and a nice black sports jacket. He also held a hidden pouch with kunai just in case enemies wanted to interrupt his date. As he came into view of where Saya told him the Kazuma clan headquarters were, he was stopped by 2 guards. Halt! What business do you have here? A guard asked. My name is Namikaze Naruto. I am here to pick up Kazuma. It is in your power. I would like to be granted entry. Naruto said as he bowed low, silently thanking Neji for the formal lessons he got months back. The guards looked at each other. They nodded to each other before opening the doors to the clan house. You may enter, Namikaze-san. Quote, thank you very much, Naruto said as he stood up and walked through the gates. He entered a huge estate with at least 20 acres of grassland, a pond located in the middle of the clan building and an array of flowers all over the estate. He then walked up to the front door and knocked twice. The door opened to reveal a girl with dark green hair and dazzling purple eyes with a pink blouse on with a green skirt, black fishnet stocking and some green high heels. Why hello Naruto-kun, Saya said as she opened the door wider to let him in, small blush on her face at his appearance. Naruto was giving his all not to have a nosebleed from the dazzling appearance that Saya was presenting him. But he walked inside of the mansion and was led to a room in which he found a man with purple hair and green eyes, a lady with green hair and purple eyes which Naruto believed was Saya's mother, and Minashi sitting on a couch. Good afternoon to the Kazuma family, Naruto said as he bowed low. Why hello Naruto-san, we have heard a lot about you, the man said as he stood up. He then walked over to Naruto and sent a right punch to Naruto, who instantly sidestepped it. The man then sent a right kick aimed for Naruto's shin, but Naruto dodged the kick and backed away from the man before getting in a defensive stance. The man then looked to the lady who tossed him a sword. He then took the sword in his hand and ran towards Naruto, swinging his sword in very fluid motions. This attack of Naruto went on with the man finally stopping his attacks and putting the sword back in the sheath. Naruto looked at the man and stood straight up from his stance with not a scratch on his body, clothes and not even out of breath. They looked at each other for a while before the man busted out laughing. You have very good reflexes, Naruto, the man said. He then walked up to Naruto, who did not move because he felt no intent from the man to harm him. The man then grabbed Naruto's hand and shook it. Name is Kazuma Ichiro, the man said. He then put his arm around Naruto and led him back inside the house as the fight took them outside and into the lawn. After leading Naruto in, the man and his wife Kazuma Kanako told him exactly why he was attacked and talked a lot about the clan and life in Suna. When Naruto left the house with Saya, he was in a daze after what was just reported to him. So, yeah, Saya said with a nervous smile. And, yes, Saya answered, but it will be okay. Saya said as she wrapped her arms around one of his and leaned into him, blushing as she did so. The two walked on in silence for a few minutes before Naruto decided to stay positive. Let's go to get some food, shall we? Naruto said. Saya smiled. Let's. After the two finished eating, Naruto took her on the top of a hill to view the sky. After being in silence for a pretty long time, Naruto broke down. I'm sorry, but why would your clan let you do such a thing? Naruto asked her, disbelief on his face. Saya remained quiet before answering his question. The elders believe that it is the best way for the clan to prosper. Saya said as she looked away from him and at the moon in the sky. Naruto had no idea what to do. He could not believe the way the clan would do such a thing to Saya. Flashback. Naruto, before we go in there I have to tell you something. Ichiro said. What is it? Naruto asked. He could tell by the expression on Ichiro's face that the issue was of importance. Our clan is truly unlike any other clan, Naruto. Ichiro said. Naruto's face twisted into one of confusion. What do you mean? He asked. Ichiro's face paled as he began to say what he knew would make Naruto's face end up like his. Naruto, the minute you said yes to Saya's date, you have agreed to own her. Quote. Naruto, not sure of what Ichiro had just said, asked him to clarify. In order words, Naruto, Saya is now your servant, wife, and bearer. End. Naruto whispered. He then grabbed Saya and pulled her into a hug. I'll take you away from them. I promise I'll be with you. Naruto whispered. He could not stand to let a girl be used like this. Saya cried into his arms as she whispered her thanks to him. What a day, Naruto whispered. He just decided to put a little twist into it. Basically, the way the clan works is that any girl of the clan gets the chance to ask a man on a date. The minute the man accepts the date, the girl is the man's property to do whatever. So Saya is Naruto's property from this point on. How is Temari going to react? You'll just have to wait to find out. Baby, come back. Here is the next update edited chapter. I hope you enjoy the changes. I sure did. Don't own I did. I can't say what I would do if I owned Naruto. Oh, and special note. This is an Uzumaki girl. Just under a different name. NTNTNTNTNTNTNTN. 2 years later. When will we see Naruto-kun again? Sakura said. She and the rest of the Konoha 11, technically 10 but who was counting, have been trying hard to get something out of Tsunade, but she would not budge. You will see him in 5 years. I have told you that. What part of that don't you understand? Tsunade said. But why did he get to go on a solo mission for so long? And where is he for that matter? Sakura said, not caring about the fact that it was a SS class mission. I do not have to answer to you. Tsunade said firmly. Yes you do. This is Naruto we're talking about here. Why does he get to leave anyway? Why couldn't Sasuke-kun go on this mission? Sakura said with Ino agreeing with her. Tsunade sighed while rubbing her forehead in frustration. This girl was continually pestering her and she was about to lose it. I believe it is in our best interest to be patient. Haruno-san. In 5 years' time, we will see Naruto again. Neji said as he leaned against the wall. I agree with my youthful rival. Naruto is probably training to become even stronger and I cannot wait to fight him in a youthful battle. Lee said. You and me both, said Sasuke with Neji agreeing. The three of them had been training as hard as ever once they heard of Naruto's mission. They believed he was going for yet another training adventure and wanted to spar with him the minute he returned. It doesn't matter anyway, he's still the dead last to me. Always has been, always will be. Kiba said. He then felt intense glares getting sent his way from many of the Konoha 11 in the room. I do not believe that Naruto was as slow as you think, Kiba. I believe that he had a lot of brains and a lot of intelligence. He just never had the chance nor the opportunity to use it. Shino said. The rest of the Konoha 11 found themselves silently agreeing. The rest of the Konoha 11 slowly began talking some more about finding his whereabouts. Kami-sama, if you are listening, please give me some help. As if luck was on her side, a message carrier flew into her office. The shinobi and kunoichi quieted down as Tsunade read the message on the letter before her eyes nearly popped out of her head. What? Gaara's office. A lot had changed in the years that Naruto had lived in Suna. He kept the situation with Saya a secret that was only known by few. While continuing to train his genin for the exam, to which he now led a 3-nin squad as the groups finally got split up. In that year, he finally met Gaara's girlfriend Misery, who made Naruto laugh as he knew she had Gaara wrapped around her fingers. He also continued to make better friends with Kankuro and many of the other nin of Suna. But if there was one thing he couldn't stand, it was the self-proclaimed rival for Temari's affection, Kairo Baka. Flashback no jutsu. Closing parenthesis. You cannot be serious, said Naruto as he was trapped between a rock and a hard place. Currently, he and Temari were hanging out after coming back from a mission to take care of some bandits. The mission was fairly easy and was done within 4 days. Now the two were in a weird mall that Naruto had never seen in Suna, but then again, he was still learning about Suna. In it, they were in a clothing store, which brings us to our current situation. Temari swayed up to Naruto and ran her hands across his chest. Naruto hated when she did this, because whatever she asked next would be an automatic yes. Curse her beautiful eyes that reminded him of the ocean. Naruto-kun, it's only 10 shoes and 15 dresses. I'm sure we can work, something you, she said as she whispered in his ears. Naruto felt blood from his nose but used his repress jutsu to suppress his leaking. Fine, I'll buy it. Now, can you please stop playing that jazz music? Naruto growled at one of his clones. Sure thing, boss, his clone said before winking and poofing side as Temari squealed and thanked him. It was only the 5th store he ended up spending money on her. He didn't mind, didn't mean he would make it easy for her. Poor Gama-chan. Temari Haim, fancy meeting you here of all places, I was just talking about you, said a voice in a smooth tone. Temari sighed as Kairo strolled in wearing blue jeans and ninja shoes with a white versus neck t-shirt. Kairo-san, she said with a fake smile. The nin just refused to give up in his advances and it was slowly getting on Naruto's and Temari's nerves. Every time Tatu would attempt to hang out, he would show up and cause the vibe between the two to disperse. The numerous chocolates and teddy bears and flowers sent to her from him in the mail did make the perfect usages as the chocolates were eaten by Kankuro, the teddy bears, Gaara used for Miser. And the flowers were great for the maids to have. When Temari Haim, are you going to answer my question and let me take you out on a date? I'm sure I can take you to a place that this no-name fool couldn't, he said as he moved in between them and slowly snaked his arm around Temari's waist. Or would have before he felt a strong grasp coming from Naruto. Listen Baka, she said no the first time, leave it alone. Naruto said as he growled at Kairo. Get your greasy hands off of me, you are touching royalty. Kairo said smoothly as he held his head up as if looking down on Naruto. Well, your highness, if you don't hit the road and step away, you'll find me to be royally pissed. Naruto growled as he clenched his fist. And killer intent began emanating around the store, causing Temari to smile at the fact that Kairo made Naruto so jealous. Who would have known he was the jealous type? And what if I don't? Said Kairo as he instinctively pulled out a kunai from his pocket. Well, let's take it outside and let our fist do the talking, King Baka. Naruto growled. Fine by me, I refuse to lose Temari Haim's love to such a second-rate shinobi from Konoha. You aren't worthy of being in her presence, let alone live in the same space as her. Temari is a princess that the moon and the stars blessed and the sun itself shines on her from above, said Kairo as he closed his eyes and imagined kissing Temari under the moonlight and stars. So, Naruto, what do you say we go get some food? Temari said as she walked away with Naruto, her arms wrapped on his left arm. Of course, I was feeling hungry myself and can go for some tempura, said Naruto with a smile as the two exited the store. Kairo growled at the two in anger. This was the 15th time they did that. Kairo did not continue to press on in his advances after Temari finally told him she would not feel the same for him, nor did she ever. When asked, she told him she remembered how he used to treat her brother and that was not forgotten the harsh words he used to say to him. He attempted to force her to kiss him. but promptly received the beating of his life. An angry Temari was not a sight to see. Naruto never told her about the predicament he was in, but continued to get closer to her as he knew a loophole. Which brings him to the place he was at now. So you are entitled to ownership over this member? Gaara asked with an impassive face. Yes, Naruto stated. So what are you going to do with her? Gaara said as he stared at Saya. What do you think? Naruto said. What do you mean? Gaara asked in confusion. I accept, Naruto said seriously as he put his fist in his hands in determination. Besides, I do need to start to rebuild my clan. I have thought long and hard about this. I think it's best. I've read up on my clan rules. I'm eligible for the Clan Restoration Act. So I can still have her under me, and still be considered single. Naruto said. He and Saya had a long conversation on this. They had agreed that she would be his wife and that he can continue to be single as the clan rules stated. I see, Gaara said as he signed the documents. Saya was now a Namikaze. No one noticed the ear that heard the whole discussion. Outside the door, Naruto and Saya stepped outside, giggling and talking in hushed tones before Naruto looked up and seen Temari standing there. Naruto's eyes widened in shock before stepping back some as he didn't know what to do or say. He meant to tell her tonight about his marriage but didn't expect her to hear it like this. Saya silently took this as her cue to leave the two alone to talk. The hallway was silent with just the sound of wind outside. I don't know what to say, Temari said as she sniffled. A tear rolled down her cheek. Naruto said nothing as he let her continue. I thought that you would be annoying. That I would be irritated by your presence. That I would avoid you, Temari said as she slowly walked up to him. Then I spent some time with you. I talked to you. I got to understand some of you. I now know the kind of person you are now. What you stand for, why you do things the way you do them. How you operate. I understand, Temari said as she sniffled some more. As she stopped in front of him she sighed. Now, Temari crashed her fist into his face, sending him reeling to the floor. Now, just when I start to think that I have developed feelings for you, I find out you're married. I feel so cold. I feel like I missed my chance to start to develop something more with you. For that, I can never forgive myself for letting you get to me. As of now, I cannot be in the vicinity of you without either wanting to kiss you or kill you, Temari said as she wiped her eyes and walked away from him. Temari, wait, he quickly said as he tried to grab her arm, only to receive another punch in the face. Don't do that, don't chase after me. Be happy, live with your wife and forget about me. Because Namikaze Naruto, I have forgotten about you, Temari said as she turned away and walked away. This is what would have happened in that perfect world. Naruto was silent and did not know what to say or do as he felt like a part of him just died. So, this is heartbreak, Naruto said to himself. Is this it? Would he let her walk away when the reason he asked Saya about it and read up on his clan book was so that he might be able to continue to get a chance to figure out his feelings for Temari? Did she know she was the reason he was here in the first place? Did she not know by now that he was acting a fool in the first place was because he wanted to hear her voice more? Ninja were supposed to look underneath the underneath. Why was she so shallow? Why didn't he just be upfront with it? Why couldn't he muster up the courage to tell her how he felt? He then realized the answer and clenched his fist in anger. Actions spoke louder than words. Stop, he yelled. Temari stopped and almost broke her resolve to walk away from him before continuing to walk. Stop, 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 stop walking away from me, Naruto yelled as she continued to walk. He finally snapped and pulled out a kunai before throwing it at her. A yellow flash illuminated the hallway and before Temari stood a teary-eyed and panting Naruto. He had not yet finished the technique, and she knew that, but he refused to. Why are you? She could not answer as Naruto grabbed her by the hem of her shirt and smashed his lips into hers. The world melted to Temari. She felt like she was on the highest of the high and her toes curled and body shivered under his touch. What was he doing to her? Just a few minutes ago she wanted to kill him, now she was willing to die for him. Naruto released her from his lips and in a labored breath whispered. If you really gave up on me, then tell it to my face in 7 days. Because I won't give up on you. Naruto whispered as he placed the kunai in her hands and phased out of the area, leaving Temari to her thoughts. But Naruto remained in that position and let Temari walk away. Walking away from her was his heart. Maybe, Temari, maybe second chances were because you never learned from the first. I've lost one chance, I refuse to lose again. Meanwhile, a figure was approaching Suna. The person was cloaked in a tan hood and the rest of it covering her body. As the person came up to the gates of Suna, they were stopped by a guard. May I ask why you are here in Suna? The man said as he looked at her papers of entrance. I'm here for Uzumaki Naruto. The person said, the voice clearly being female. May I ask what business you have with him? The man said, family business. Quote, NTNTNTNTNTNTNTNTN. Yes, I took it there. I am so evil. Mufahahaha. I hope you are ready for the person who is coming for Naruto. Family business. What does she mean? And if you think it is Kushina, let me be the first to tell you, nope. Why was Tsunade shouting? What is going on? Stay tuned next chapter to see how it all comes together. You will not want to miss it. I guarantee. Bye bye. You've got me going in circles. I don't own Naruto. NTNTNTNTNTNTN. Last chapter in Hokage no More. A figure was approaching Suna. The person was cloaked in a tan hood and the rest of it covering her body. As the person came up to the gates of Suna, they were stopped by a guard. May I ask why you are here in Suna? The man said as he looked at her papers of entrance. I'm here for Uzumaki Naruto. The person said. May I ask what business you have with him? The man said. Family business. Quote, currently, Naruto sighed as he lay down on his bed in his room. Trying to find an irate Temari who wouldn't listen to you just made life even more complicated. He had searched everywhere, but she had been living in Suna for years, basically her whole life. How could he explain to her just what happened and why it happened? If she heard everything, then she had to have known about the clan and the mannerisms. It wasn't like he and Temari were even an official couple, they were just good friends, right? And friends let one another lean on one another, right? Friends spent time together. With just them together, Naruto knew that for a fact. Sometimes they even held hands. Naruto sighed again in frustration. Maybe the truth was he didn't see her as a friend anymore. Maybe she was in his eyes someone who he could fully call his GI. Naruto was about to finish his thoughts when an interruption in the form of a knock on the door was heard. Who is that? Naruto asked himself in wonder at who could be possibly bothering him. Standing up to answer, he was greeted to the sight of Kankuro with a serious look on his face. Naruto closed his eyes and decided to get what he had to say out first. Look, if it's about Temari, I didn't mean for her to find out about it like that. Someone is in Gaara's office with information concerning your family, Kankuro said with a straight face. Naruto's words caught in his throat and in a bright yellow flash he was out of the room, leaving Kankuro wand. Hearing how long he had attained the ability to do that. Cage's office. Gaara sat at his desk reading the scroll the cloaked person had given him. Once she had entered the office escorted by his, she would have to set up an appointment to see him, but this was a bit too important to wait for. This was a lot to take in at the moment, and he had nothing to do with it, so that was saying a lot about how important it was. Suddenly, a flash literally interrupted his thoughts as Naruto entered the office through his window with a yellow bright flash, right above the seal that was planted in the middle of his office. When did he do that? Gaara did not know, but found he didn't mind at all. Immediately looking for the person who had information concerning the Uzumaki or Namikaze name, Naruto looked to Gaara, who arched his neck to the person behind him. The office was silent as Naruto looked at the person, identifying the person as a female, some strands of red hair leaking from her long tan-colored hood. Then she spoke and Naruto knew she sounded familiar. A little bit too familiar. Uzumaki Naruto, I've finally found you, she said, her voice a mixture of nervousness and relief mixed with exhaustion and concern. What is it that you have concerning my family? Naruto said impatiently. He had a lot going on with Konoha and Temari, he had no time for stalling. The lady said nothing, simply reaching into her cloak she removed a scroll and handed it to Naruto. Quickly skimming through the scroll, his eyes widened to epic proportions. With a shaky hand he put the scroll in his pocket and whispered. Cousins. The lady nodded. Naruto slowly walked towards her unmoving figure. Putting his hands to the sides of her hood, he slowly removed it. And peered deep into the eyes of Tayuya Uzumaki, sister of the late Nagato Uzumaki, kidnapped by Orochimaru during the Second Shinobi War. We have much to discuss, she said seriously. Naruto nodded. In a bright flash the two were gone. Undisclosed location deserts of Suna. Temari sent another wind strike through the desert dunes, whipping up sand for miles in her anger. For reasons unknown, she felt rage at the fact that Naruto was married. She wasn't sure why though. Logically speaking, he was the sole clan heir of both the Uzumaki and Namikaze clan. He was eligible for the CRA plan both in Suna if he decided to stay or go back to Konoha. He was an eligible bachelor, and he knew the mannerisms of the clan Saya was from. But still, why did she storm out of the office? Why did she get so mad and frustrated at Naruto? The answer was simple. You love him. But what was she afraid of? Rejection. Humiliation. What if he said no? What if he only seen her as a friend? But friends don't give friends necklaces that cost equaled 3S ranked missions for their birthdays. Friends don't share their entire life from childhood to now, including the responsibility of being a Jinchuriki. Friends don't spend so much time with one another between missions. Temari dropped her fan. Friends don't chase after friends for 4 hours, but friends that wanted more did. Friends that desired more did. Friends that cared did. Temari had her answer. She was just too afraid to notice. But if there was anyone who should have been afraid to love again, afraid to crave comfort and love, it would be Naruto. And she ran from him. She ran. Temari turned around and grabbed her fan before rushing back to the palace. She had to find Naruto. She needed to make things right. Konoha. Tsunade silently sipped her sake at the revelation she had recently come across. Orochimaru was even more treacherous and deceptive even in death. Who would have ever known that not only was Nagato, who went by Pain, was Naruto's cousin, but Tayuya, one of Orochimaru's Sound 5, was Nagato's lost relative. Making her Naruto's cousin. But now she was apparently making her way to Suna. To be united with her relative. Hopefully this will bring some comfort to Naruto's dark past. Tsunade prepared herself for the coming Chunin exams and the return of Naruto that would weigh so many things upon it. Would he remain in Suna? Would he stay in Konoha? Tsunade honestly could not blame him if he wanted to remain in Suna. She had been sending letters back and forth with Gaara and he seemed to be enjoying life out there in Suna, taking missions and spending time with friends. Tsunade smiled despite the situation. It had been a while since he let another girl in. After Hinata's death, all Naruto seemed to do was train himself into unconsciousness, wishing to be strong enough to prevent another casualty from someone he cared about. It seemed Temari was good for healing his darkened heart. Tsunade read the forms of the people who would be arriving from the other nations and nodded to herself. This year's exams would be a sight to see. Suna Subaku Estate. Naruto sat on the balcony ledge with Tayuya sitting on a chair, the two looking out at the lowering of the sun as night made its way to the village. Naruto told Tayuya about his life growing up, as they both dealt a bit awkward as they once were enemies fighting against each other for different causes, and they now were both changed shinobi with new found information at their disposal. Tea was expected for the two of them to be rather silent and nervous. Finally, Tayuya decided it was her turn to discuss her life up until then. I was kidnapped by Orochimaru when I was 6, apparently he had caught wind of my clan and our abilities. He put a seal on me, making me forget everything I knew, but the seal was faulty at best, leaving me as a foul-mouthed violent female with genjutsu abilities and a rather analytical mind. When I battled Shikamaru all those years back, Temari was the one who actually helped me. I was knocked unconscious. They left me for dead, which I can't be mad at the fact as I would have done the same in the situation. I was found by a traveling merchant who was on his way to Wave. I had no knowledge of my previous life, who I was, who I represented, what I was able to do. The only thing I remembered was my name and my fighting abilities. It was there I came across your name, from there I had flashes of my memories. I eventually came to be taken care of by a family, as the merchant was leaving town and I wanted to remain in Wave until I could figure out who I was. It was watching a young boy train with Kunai and Shuriken, helping that boy and learning about who inspired him that I ended up in the home of those which I'm sure you would know rather well. Chizuna and his family? Naruto asked in surprise. Chiyuya nodded an affirmation. I got a job at a flower shop while I tried to make sense as to why I had begun getting headaches at the name, Uzumaki. It was when news had spread of you saving the cage that another vision occurred. It involved ruins in a land I had never seen in my life before, water surrounding everything and a spiral that you've had on your clothing since birth but didn't know why until recently. But I knew firstly I had to find out about why, Uzumaki, was so important, leading me to find a way to get back Nto Orochimaru's bases to get the information I truly desired. When I heard of his death by Sasuke's hand, I wasted no time finding the bases and looking throughout each for information concerning the clan. It was the one nearest to Suna that I learned that I was indeed of Uzumaki blood and found out about my birth in AIM. My older brother was a man named Nagato, who you knew to be Pain. Naruto nodded his head at that. He had heard it firsthand from Madara during their final battle. Chiyuya smiled. But he is no longer among the living, leaving me to find you, which that in itself was merely luck that I heard you left Konoha for Suna. I went back to Wave after raiding Orochimaru's lands for the necessary info, among other things I accomplished. I was in Konoha for a arrangement with the Hokage when I overheard some Shunin discussing your whereabouts. I swiftly made my way to Suna to find you, as we are the last known Uzumakis on Earth. But I have come here for another important fact. It is a very vital fact that we must go and find out on our own, Chiyuya said seriously. What would that fact be? Asked Naruto seriously. Anything had to do with his family, anything he had to do. He would go through with it. Chiyuya stood up and grabbed him by his shirt. We have to keep our clan alive, Naruto. We need our clan to rise back to the prestige and power it once was. In order to do that, we need to take a trip to Uzushiogakure and find out about our history. Then and only then can we know what not to do in the future, by learning of the past. I am trying to go to Uzushiogakure. I need you, Naruto. You have to come with me, said Chiyuya seriously. Looking into her eyes, Naruto found everything he needed to know she wasn't lying. She would go with or without him. She was that determined, that ready and that serious. Naruto was silent at that. His decision had been made a long time ago. Removing her hands from his but holding onto them, Naruto smiled and nodded his head. I will go with you to Uzushiogakure. We will learn about our clan, then revive it. Chiyuya smiled a genuine smile before launching herself into his arms. Naruto, said a voice. Naruto's head snapped as he looked towards the entrance to find a shocked Temari. Naruto instantly knew how she would react, and he wasn't looking forward to it. Quickly removing himself out of Chiyuya's grasp, Naruto held his hands up in a hopefully placating gesture. Don't leave yet, I can explain. To his surprise, Temari slowly and silently walked towards him with a resolve in his eyes. I don't care if she's your secret lover, I don't care if she's your wife, I don't care if she's your damn long-lost cousin Naruto. I've had it. Temari barked as she came into his comfort zone and smashed her lips into his with such velocity, he wouldn't be surprised if he and her lips were bleeding. Naruto was dazed and lost in bliss. It was like she was putting chakra behind her kiss. Now, Naruto had his fair share of kisses, from Isaribi, from villains who sucked his chakra out of him, which both disturbed but aroused him at the same time, from Tsunade, from Hinata and from... Well, let's not think about that one. But this one was amazing. He felt all of her emotions through it. Her pain, her desire, her lust, her envy, her jealousy. Her love. Releasing her hold so she could breathe, Temari hid her face in his clothes to hide from the embarrassment. I don't care who these people mean to you, Naruto. Temari began mumbling, but Naruto's hearing heard her clear as day and his eyes widened as memories flowed through his head. I love you. I believe in you, Naruto. Quote, change, peace. You can do it. I have always loved you and Naruto-kun. Naruto came back, only to realize he had to answer. So he did. Pushing Temari away, he could see the surprise and hurt in her eyes. But when he kissed her back, that all changed. Chiyuya's sweat dropped at the entire scene. It was as if they had forgotten she was there. Temari grabbed Naruto's shirt and added more intensity to the lip lock. Naruto grasped her hips before wrapping his left arm around her and leaning her back a bit. Acid flowing through the other as the embrace got more sultry and more lustful. Naruto grabbed her shirt before. Suddenly remembering who was there and what was being discussed, Naruto's widened and he removed his lips and hands formed Temari, the two panting in their haste. I see you're well on your way to reviving your clan, said Yuya with amusement in her tone. Naruto blushed heavily before introducing Temari. Temari, this is Yuya, my cousin. We were talking about going to Uzushiogakure to find out about our history. Then I will make it a mission. S-class, you can leave whenever you desire. You will take Temari with you, said a voice. Naruto whipped his head around to find Gaara leaning against the door, a smirk on his face at catching the two. Temari stuttered and pointed her finger at Gaara in shock. Were you there that whole time? Temari said. Gaara nodded. Naruto's sweat dropped as Temari screeched and hid behind him. Do you accept the mission? Gaara asked. Naruto and Yuya nodded, with Temari also nodding, though only Naruto felt her nod on his back. I, Uzumaki Naruto, clan head of the Uzumaki and Namikaze clan, accept this mission to Uzushiogakure to find artifacts concerning my clan. Quote, 2011 is a new year. Happy New Year if I didn't say it. I have decided to put some new chapter focuses towards the other stories. The Zanpakuto can't be the only thing on earth getting love, no. So, here is another chapter. If I can feel the ideas flow, then, the fox gets petted, should be you. Next. I hope you've enjoyed it. Sorry for the short length by the way, I'm trying to get back into the flow of this story. I'll get my ideas together and come correct next chapter. Until next time, reunited. I want to inform you that the reason this update is coming to you so fast is because of one movie. One character, one night Batman. The Dark Knight Rises. I feel so motivated right now to write that I am going to write until my fingers fall off an update on the stories I need to. You guys have been bothering me to do. This will be a short update, but it is a necessary one to let you guys know I haven't given up. Enjoy. Naruto, Temari and Yuya came across the valley located near Wave Country and Kiri to find a huge waterfall raging with water. This is it. This is where one of the underground routes to Uzushiogakure is located, said Yuya. But this is a waterfall. Wouldn't this be more of an easier route to, the waterfall village? Naruto asked skeptically, Temari inwardly agreeing. Yuya giggled and simply walked through the waterfall, a light enveloping her body like a portal before she disappeared. Naruto raised his eyebrow a bit before grasping Temari's hand and also walking through, the two also shining before disappearing into the cave. Appearing on the other side, Naruto realized that it was done for a reason. 20 different pathways lay in front of him, each looking as scary and dark as the next. So this was just a ruse? Asked Naruto, pointing to the waterfall as he walked up to the pillar Yuya was standing in front of. For enemies, yes, for us. At this, Yuya channeled chakra through the pillar and the light went through the floor and into one of the tunnels, which began to light up as fire appeared on the walls on both sides. It's simply a pathway. Yuya skipped through the tunnel, Naruto and Temari following as well. After a walk that felt like forever, the three came across a walkway that led to a green whirlpool. This is the only way to get to Uzushiogakure. Through the whirlpool, said Yuya. Naruto looked at it and without prompting, ran full speed and jumped into the eye of the whirlpool. Face first. Going straight through and into the water, Yuya looked at Temari and shook her head. He is going to be in a world of pain when he gets to the other side, Uzushiogakure. On the other side a screaming Naruto plummeted to the ground from the sky in which he came from. Dusting off his shirt and slowly getting up, Naruto gasped at the sight of his ancestors' home. Pillars, broken and destroyed on the left and right, lay in front of him. But it was the hundreds of thousands of buildings in front of him, and the huge mansion-like building miles away in the distance that made him realize just how big and powerful his clan used to be and were. He himself was planted on streets that literally seemed as if they were paved by gold. So much destruction, and yet in his eyes, he had never seen such beauty in a village. It was regal and a place to be fawned over. This was where he would come from if it wasn't for the wars and the endless envy of others. The greed and the power struggle. But that was then. This was now. Home, Naruto said to himself. Yes, it is for you. Welcome home, Naruto, said a voice from behind him. Naruto swiftly turned around only to freeze up at who was standing there in front of him. Geta stood in front of his crouched position. Green jacket, sturdy legs, a huge amount of cleavage, diamond on forehead, blonde hair. Yep, this was Tsunade all right. Tsunade crossed her arms over her chest. Kakashi and Shizune, also present, stood behind her. What, expected to come here on your own? Naruto simply nodded. Happy to see you too, Granny. Home. Short, I know, but it is just an update. I am still thinking of this story. Let me know what you think. The comeback. Updates soon come. Good afternoon or morning to everyone. Over the years I have been accumulating life experiences and learning about myself and my writing style. While I have not been updating my stories, I have been reading hundreds of thousands of other stories and getting my motivate. Ion back. I have come across a few messages and comments, specifically Kidney Zero, Guest, Steen Jelligani and Midnight Lost as of this year, for this specific story. I have come to the realization that I have a desire to want to finish this story again. I will be rereading this plot and looking into the characterization and how to put it all together. One thing I can speak to is that this story has mentally been finished. I just now need to use my creative license and language to bring it to a visual bow tie ending. I truly thank everyone who kept hope alive on this story. I am hoping to get it done before June ends, but I know myself and my current passion. If I have the time, I promise it will be done mid-June. Looking forward to bringing this story to a close and also to introducing and finishing the rest of the stories on my page. Until next time, switch. Author's note. Going for the less is more approach. I finally mapped out the finale, so here is a teaser to wet your beaks. As the waves crashed on this foreign land that felt like family, Naruto sat at the edge of a cliff overlooking the land. Naruto pondered the ways he could possibly change what he was looking at. Destruction and degradation as far as the eye could see, history erased from fear. Emotions spiraled in his gut, water swirled in his tear ducts like the whirlpools he was witnessing. Should he be angry, sad, happy that he got to witness this place? His people, his homeland, his original source of family, wiped off of the face of the earth. All that was left was here with him. What was he to do? What were his options? If he was to take over here, if he had a choice to replace the land, bring Uzushiokage back to its prestige, back to its original strength and power, could he do it? He thought about all of the things he had lost. The person he became as a result. The life of a shinobi was not about self-interest but about sacrifice. About giving up a piece of yourself for the good of the nation you represented. Could he do it again? Could he become the one thing he always dreamed of? A cage. For this land, for the people who most likely needed it most. Yes. Now stop sulking and get to work, rumbled a voice he hadn't heard in many years. Then he knew. He knew what he had to do. He would make an ally out of Tsunagaker, then Kurikage. He would ask one time. Just once. That each of the nations that pillaged his homeland. Anyone who would listen, every ear in the land. To return what was stolen. Any person hiding in fear of their lineage, come back home. And if they did not listen, if these nations decided to play dumb, he would go to war and win. But knowing the nations like he did, they would acquiesce. As he pondered, he felt a presence appear next to him. Are you okay? She asked. He smiled. Even in the midst of her frustrations and anger, she allowed herself to be vulnerable with him. I will be, Naruto said. All right, that was enough sulking. He was not Sasuke. This was not him. Slapping his face twice, he dusted himself off and picked himself up from the cliff he was sitting on. And put his hands in a cross. Looking at his lover, girlfriend, intended, another thing to figure out, he asked her. I will lead this nation and bring it back to its former glory. Are you with me? Naruto asked Temari. Her answer was immediate. Always. In a massive poof of smoke. The Uzumaki clan was changed forever. A lot can change with motivation, good connections, whole nations who loved and respected you, and of course, the powerful, talk no jutsu, Naruto mused. In a matter of months, things got set up. After the Chunin exams, Nami no Kuni, Yuki no Kuni, Land of Demons and various smaller nations pledged to support Naruto. Kumo, Kiri and begrudgingly Iwa, had agreed to send aid. Suna and Konoha, well, that went without being said. 7 days. In 7 days Naruto cleared the land of any debris or damage and began the stages of infrastructure. Working tirelessly, taking small breaks, he, along with Tsunade, Tayuya, Temari and the Sunanin who came with them, searched for any hidden places, scrolls, etc. Finding treasure troves of information and seals. Naruto held it all as the leader. The first and only thing they built was a building to stay. Now that a plan was in place, it was time to return to Suna. The Chunin exams was in a week. Next chapter will be some tough talks and closure in Konoha for Naruto. Then a time skip, some Temari Naruto moments and hopefully we will wrap it up there.